Greenland's entire government survives on a $600 million lifeline from Denmark, enough to fund schools, hospitals, and police for all 57,000 residents. For the United States, outbidding that sum costs less than operating two B-2 bombers. Why would Washington treat Greenland like America's next protectorate, and how close are we to watching a superpower transform a nation with spare change? What really happens when sovereignty comes with a price tag? The real stakes start here. Each morning in Nuuk, the day begins with a routine shaped by Danish funding. Teachers unlock classrooms heated through government payments, nurses check supplies in clinics supported by the block grant, and police officers patrol streets knowing their salaries depend on a budget line in Copenhagen. The numbers behind these daily scenes are stark. Denmark's annual block grant to Greenland stands at 4.1 billion Danish kroner, about $600 million. That single figure covers more than half of Greenland's entire government budget, underwriting schools, hospitals, courts, and the civil service for all 57,000 residents. Without it, the government's own revenue, drawn mostly from fishing and limited taxes, would fall short by billions. The statute governing the grant spells out its reach. The Danish state shall provide an annual subsidy for the operation of Greenland's self-government, adjusted for inflation and reviewed regularly. The annual subsidy is written into law and into the routines of public administration. This means the electric bill at the regional hospital, the textbooks in a village school, and the pension checks for retired civil servants all trace back to a Danish parliamentary vote. Local administrators see these links every day. Local officials know the consequences if the money stopped. A principal in Nuuk puts it plainly: if the block grant vanished, we would be forced to close schools within months. The Greenlandic government's own budget reports warn that, without Danish support, public services would face unsustainable deficits, triggering layoffs and service cuts across the island. At its core, the block grant is not just a number in a ledger. It is the difference between a functioning welfare state and a rapid slide toward fiscal crisis. It is a dependency written into the daily lives of every Greenlander. $600 million. In Washington, that figure barely registers. The entire United States federal budget for 2025 tops $6.75 trillion. The sum Denmark sends to Greenland each year, so vital to life in Nuuk, makes up just 0.009% of American annual spending. That is about 2.5 hours of federal outlays. For perspective, the Pentagon spends more than that on office supplies. Defense planners like to measure costs in bombers. Keeping two B-2 stealth aircraft in the air for a year costs roughly $260 million. The Greenland block grant could cover 4 B-2 aircraft, with cash left over for spare parts. On a budget chart, $600 million is a rounding error, a single pixel on the vast canvas of United States government finance. Inside policy circles, the arithmetic is almost comic. The money Denmark strains to provide is the kind of sum a congressional subcommittee can approve before lunch. For a country that spends $850 billion a year on defense, replacing Copenhagen's subsidy is less a burden than a strategic bargain. The block grant that props up Greenland's schools and hospitals is, for the United States, the cost of doing business in the Arctic. This is not about generosity, it is about leverage. With just a sliver of its budget, Washington could offer Greenland a new patron and make Denmark's grip look fragile by comparison. The question is not whether the United States can afford to outbid Denmark. The question is whether it wants to, and how it plans to structure the offer. Across the Pacific, a different kind of independence has taken root. In Palau, the Marshall Islands, and Micronesia, the United States holds agreements called Compacts of Free Association, known as COFA. These compacts replaced colonial rule with a new bargain. The United States sends annual payments, about $70 million to $200 million per country, and in return gains exclusive control over defense and foreign policy. The arrangement gives the United States the right to station troops, build bases, and to deny access to any rival power, all without needing approval from local governments. Citizens of these island nations can live and work in the United States without a visa, a privilege that has reshaped entire communities. Young people from the Marshalls now attend high school in Arkansas, while families from Palau settle in Oregon and Texas, drawn by jobs and education. For many communities, this migration is a lifeline. For the governments back home, United States aid covers much of the national budget, funding hospitals, schools, and civil service salaries, just as Denmark's grant does in Greenland. That financial dependence is political leverage. When most public services rely on external payments, local decision-making is constrained and the donor sets the agenda. The islands often depend on that steady income. A COFA scholar explains these compacts were designed as a middle ground. The islands appear self-governing, but Washington's authority over security and foreign affairs is absolute. The legal language is blunt. The government of the United States has full authority and responsibility for security and defense matters in or relating to each country. The payments are spelled out in tables, with regular reviews and inflation adjustments, but the core trade never changes. The United States pays. The islands depend. In exchange, American interests are protected, and the Pacific remains a zone where no other military can set foot without United States permission. That strategic arrangement secures regional access and preserves American control. The mechanics of American influence in the Pacific follow a well-defined sequence, refined over decades. The first step is always a local referendum. The territory, whether Palau or the Marshall Islands, votes to end its formal ties with the previous administrator. The result is celebrated as independence, but the transition is orchestrated behind closed doors. Within days, local leaders sign a binding agreement with Washington, the Compact of Free Association. This document is not a treaty between equals. It grants the United States sweeping authority over defense and foreign policy in exchange for an annual flow of financial aid that replaces the old colonial subsidy. The third step is the rapid substitution of funding. Where Danish block grants once paid for hospitals and schools, US dollars now fill the gap, arriving through direct transfers and federal programs. The terms are spelled out in tables and appendices, health clinics, teacher salaries, police budgets, all itemized, all underwritten by Washington. Next, defense and security responsibilities officially shift to the Pentagon. The compact language is unambiguous. Only the United States may station troops, build bases, or decide who enters the airspace and waters. The local government is left with domestic affairs, but the levers of sovereignty have moved offshore. The final step is dependency, not autonomy. The aid is reviewed and adjusted, but always remains essential. Over time, the arrangement becomes self-reinforcing. Citizens enjoy new privileges, migration rights, and access to American programs, but the territory's strategic value is locked in. The blueprint is simple, repeatable, and engineered to endure. For U.S. policymakers, it is less a negotiation than a checklist. A United States passport in every Greenlandic wallet. That is the kind of promise now circulating in Nuuk's political circles. For 57,000 residents, the prospect means more than just travel. It is a ticket to live and work in the United States, with access to American universities and a job market where the median income is $70,000, far above Greenland's average. The financial lure does not stop there. On the table are infrastructure projects worth up to $20 billion over a decade, including new international airports, a deep water port, modern hospitals, fiber optic cables, and mining roads. The math is blunt. If Washington sent $2 billion in annual aid, it would add $35,000 per person each year on top of current incomes. For families weighing the future, these numbers are hard to ignore. The promise is not just prosperity, but a complete transformation of daily life. Opinion polling in Greenland now shows 68% of residents favor greater autonomy if economic conditions are right. Political calendars in Nuuk and Copenhagen circle the same deadline. A formal independence referendum is expected within 5 years. The sense of anticipation is everywhere. Local newspapers run daily updates on the latest survey numbers, while town halls fill with debates about what self-rule would mean for jobs, passports, and social programs. Watchdog groups and Danish officials voice concern over rumors of outside money fueling the independence movement, but no confirmed evidence has surfaced. As the clock ticks down, every new poll and political speech carries extra weight, with both sides preparing for a decision that could alter Greenland's future forever. Greenland's future now hinges on global ambition, not local need. As superpowers see Arctic territory as a strategic asset, sovereignty is measured in dollars, not history. The world's largest island stands at a crossroads, reminding us that, in geopolitics, independence often comes with a new price tag. What's it worth?